Hi, it's me again. I'm trying, this is attempt number 3, to speak with Richard Rabel. So I was saying his name wrong, which is deeply, deeply irritating. But I am going to try to get him on again. He has turned off his Wi-Fi. We're doing the best we can in this imperfect world. I'm pressing to look for the click to join thing. I'm sure you wanted all of these details, and that's why I am there. Okay.
Hey.
Hi. Okay.
So we're connected.
It seems good. I think
Yes.
this is gonna work.
Can
Hello.
you hear me?
I can hear you, and now I've seen your eyebrow up
Okay,
close.
good.
Personal, and I have pronounced your name correctly now. So
Rabel.
my brief shame has been erased. So how are
There's
you,
no
Richard?
there's no shame at all. I'm well, thank you. Yourself?
You look like you have a twinkling crown around your
Oh,
head,
it's
right? A
it's my
diadem.
it's my artwork. I hadn't really noticed it, but yes, it's like my halo.
Well, and I've got my
Oh, you,
my monkey grinder,
I know. It looks
uh,
like one of the little hats, the little
a
monkeys. Yeah,
fez, a
yeah,
mini fez.
yes.
So,
Yeah.
how are you? How have you been these past 2 years? What's going on?
Well, it's been kind of surreal for everybody, I guess. These 2 years, I feel like it's been a kind of like the Twilight Zone. It's like
For
two
sure.
lost years, and like where did they go? And I see people.
And
Uh,
now it's gotten weirder. So, who
eh,
knows when we're going to start tracking time again?
I know, this new normal. I don't know what the new normal really is or when it's going to kick in, but I'm ready for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Have you been in New York the whole time?
I was in New York for the 2 years basically. Didn't travel at all. Yeah, and just kind of, the first year basically hunkered in the apartment, not being able to go out and,
Right.
wearing the mask and 6 feet apart and the
Yeah.
washing your hands and all that sort of good stuff.
The full
Um, so no, I'm ready. I had a trip planned for Australia in September of 2020, which of course got canceled.
Oh yeah.
Then the travel agent moved it for September 2021, and I'm thinking, this ain't going to happen because we're still in the thick of it. So
Right.
that got canceled. So now I'm
And
hoping,
also, that's such a big trip. You
yes,
know,
it's not like going,
it's not a like, oh, gotta go home, and this will be. It's such a commitment that, yeah, everything has to be
it's not like going to Miami or, even Mexico or anything like that. It's
there.
kind of a big thing. So I'm hoping that this September finally, now that the borders are open in Australia also, I can go and spend 4 weeks because that's exactly what I'm
Yeah.
planning on it. Yeah. So what about you? You have any?
Um, I am going to the Parma Antiques Fair next week.
That's fun.
So
That's
I am
fun.
having a split consciousness issue because on the one hand, I'm reading the paper and there is a war going on in Europe. And then in a completely different universe, I'm going to Parma.
Yeah.
And I am like, how do, you know, how it's a lot. It's a
Yes.
lot to think about. Sorry, I got to move and change my position. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I feel lucky that our jobs are such that we get relief from the real worries of the world by looking at beautiful things and making people happy in their home. And like, if ever there was a moment to grab hold of our profession with both hands and appreciate it as a generator of happy things,
Yeah.
it's now.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great job, and everybody listening and knows it's a great job. Um, I mean, we're not curing cancer, and we're not, inventing, you know, s-
Something. Yeah.
spaceships and things like that. So we kind of have to also take that with a grain of
Yeah.
salt.
Yeah. But I mean, this is, you know, important stuff where you live.
Yeah,
Certainly, if we can get people's houses and homes in such a way that they can then cure cancer,
yeah,
then we're,
yeah,
like,
no, yeah. No, it's It's certainly a fun industry and it's a fun job. Yeah, I wouldn't change it for anything. You know,
How
as you
did you
know, I've
get
had,
into it?
it's a funny thing because you know, some people say, you know, I was changing the furniture in my, you know,
Yeah.
in my parents' home when I was 2, and none of that with me. Basically, between my junior and my senior year in high school, I worked for an architect as an intern,
Uh-huh.
and I I loved that. And so he had
In
this,
high school, that's amazing.
yeah, in high school. He was building my, you know, our house. So, you know, there was a bit
So
of a,
you're fobbed off on him.
yes, exactly. Exactly. But, you know, this guy had a wonderful collection of Architectural Digest. And I asked him if I could take, you know, 5 or 6 every night, which I did. And I just kind of poured through the magazines and I would like, this is fantastic. This is fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. So when it was time to go to university, I said to my dad, who's very type 1, very old school. I loved him to pieces, but, you know, very rigorous in his thoughts. And he said, no, you're not doing interior design. You are doing engineering. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
This is another subplot of a lot of these talks.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like you need to be an accountant or you need to get a business degree or oops, sorry. So yeah.
And you know what's funny is that I don't know if this, you know, if you went through this, but when I was about, I would say about 12 to 15, I took this test at school about like what you would be good at.
Yeah.
And it had questions, I mean, silly questions like, would you rather plant a flower or would you rather like mend
Eat
a
a
saw?
wheel of cheese.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, completely, yeah. So, you know, I answered all those questions, and then at the end of the thing, it says, okay, you are apt to do 3 things. One, in no particular order. 1 was an accountant. 2 was an interior designer. And 3 was a salon owner, like a hair
That
salon
is a
owner.
weird Venn diagram.
I mean, that was like bizarre. And the thing is that I don't even believe that, but I have those, you know, my mom gave me all the file of all my stuff. And so I saw it and I'm like, this is crazy. The only good thing about that was that it mentioned interior design. So
Yeah.
I guess I've had the sensibility for the interiors for a long time. And it just took a while to get here.
Sure. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up, for the most part, in Mexico, in
Really?
Guadalajara, Mexico. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
tell me more.
yeah. You know, my dad's American, and my mom is Spanish Mexican. You know, parents, and so yeah, so most of my growing years was in Guadalajara, which, by the way, I graduated from the same school as David Rockwell did, like
Yeah,
eons before. Yeah,
that is
it's a
so
coincidence.
great.
Yeah.
So how did you end up over here?
So I went to
What
school.
drove you
You know,
lefterly?
oh, sorry,
What drove you lefterly?
lefterly. Well, no, northerly to the U.S. I guess was
Yeah,
university. Yeah. So after university, I basically stayed here. You know, I studied my engineering. I got a job
Oh, so
with.
you did get an engineering degree.
Oh yeah, totally,
Oh, yeah.
totally.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I have to say, you know, years back, I asked my dad, you know, why was he so set in me studying engineering? And he said something that was actually turned out to be completely true. And that was that he said, when you graduate from university, you'll have a good job and a well-paying job. And he was absolutely right, because when I graduated from my, you know, 4-year university, I was making back then 40 grand a year, which
Yeah,
most of my friends and stuff were making like 15 or 20.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that kind of helped me, you know, go out on my own, you know, not have to go back to live with my parents and be on my own and save. And so
So
it
how
was a
long did
weird
you do
decision.
that? And did you continue doing that? Like, did you moonlight and do both? How long were you working as an engineer?
So as an engineer, I worked zero because
Oh, but so what was the job that you got that paid so much?
yeah. Well, after that, I started working for GE Capital, which doesn't
Oh,
exist anymore. So like a financing arm of GE. And then I started working for JP Morgan.
okay.
So, yeah,
So, yeah. So forget
yeah.
about
So,
best laid plans.
yeah. So I had a pretty, I was just kind of,
And were you in the Northeast at that point?
no, I was in Dallas and then I was in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
So,
what a running jump to have gotten to see all these different cultures.
yeah, no, I've been very lucky, and there's no other word for it because sometimes no matter how much money you have, you can't make things work.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can, but sometimes you can't, and so I've been lucky in that sense.
Yeah. Um, so so what was the process of leaving JP Morgan and saying, all right, it's time for me to answer the call?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because with JP Morgan, I was in Hong Kong, and I realized very quickly that to be a good investment banker,
Hmm.
you either have to really, actually, to be good in anything, you really, really have to love it.
Yeah, because
And
it's a big time commitment.
it's big time commitment, and you have to kind of love numbers,
Hmm.
which I absolutely hate. You
Yeah.
think that, I studied engineering and blah, 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 and I know my numbers, and I'm terrible. It must be like my lack of focus in ways. And I'm terrible at numbers. So I realized that. And so I ended up, after that, I ended up getting a job with one of the bank's clients. And he is, or was, a finance minister of Chile. And he's the one, after working with him for about 2 years, he said, you love the arts, you have that sensibility, go to Christie's Education. I'm
Yeah.
going to pay for it myself, and he
That's
said, if it doesn't work out,
so
you come
great.
back and you work for me. So that right there really kind of lifted the space for me, because also what happens is that what happened with me, and I think happens with a lot of people, is that you start doing things and you start getting into a rut, and you may like things, but you're like, I'm making such good money. Why would I want to go into something else where I'm making, a
Of
fifth of
course, of
that?
course. I mean, reality is reality.
Yeah,
We've got to be responsible and, you know, eat.
yeah, absolutely. So he was the one, he helped me with that, gave me a great bonus, paid for it. And then after that, after Christie's Education, Christie's hired two people only. Christie's Education is part of Christie's, but they don't promise
Oh,
employment for anybody.
sure.
So they hired two people, one for New York, moi, and someone else for London. So that was just luck and
Yeah.
being in the right place at the right time. And
But it
so,
also sounds like you know how to work, which
yeah,
is a huge component, as you said, of any job. It's like, it's a commitment. And if, you know, that is such a great story. I love the idea of you're having this patron almost, this fairy godfather, like empowering you to do the thing that you wanted to do.
yeah,
That's amazing. Are you, I mean, I still know them.
yeah. No, I still know them. And, it's funny because they're art collectors. And even 3 weeks ago, and they live in San Francisco now, 3 weeks ago, I got a call to see if I could help them sell, what a major piece in their collection. So we're still in contact after all these years, which is fantastic. I mean, it really is like, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not be in contact with them?
Yeah.
That's family. That's when somebody like is firmly part of your life. Wow.
Yeah, because,
Um,
for someone to really look for your benefit. I mean, they're not blood members or anything like that, but for someone to take interest in you and really kind of, um, what's the word, out of their heart, really want you to succeed
Mhm.
is amazing. I mean, that's those mentors. Like I said, I was just very lucky. It was fantastic.
And I think for sure that we all have clients like that too in our career. Maybe not as quite as supportive as that man,
Yeah.
but like those great clients who, when you are starting out, who believe in you and give you life to really go for it, and you realize later when you're older what they did for you and
Yeah.
how huge it was. um and you can just hope that you have a relationship with somebody one day where you can do that same thing.
Yeah.
um
Well, when you first start off on your own, I think, getting your first job, like your first real job, not your first job where you're, schlepping and you're getting $5 an hour, but like a real serious job. When you get your first one, it's an amazing thing, that someone can put their trust in you.
Totally. So how long were you at Christie's before? So
So
this is so interesting and peripatetic. You're picking up skills at college, in your finance jobs, now at Christie's, now working at Christie's. When do you say, okay, my toolbox is full enough for me to hang out my shingle?
Well, what happened, so I was at Christie's for 10 years, and
Yes.
things just started getting a little bit, boring, and I couldn't really see moving up because of the way that the organization
Sure.
was. And so one of my clients there is a Brazilian architect, Hugo Di Pace, and he and I were great because my territory when I was at Christie's was basically Spain and South America.
And it's so great that you're bilingual.
Yeah, yeah. No, it helps. I can't even tell you how much it helps. So anyway, he told me, he said, Richard, you love the arts. You obviously love architecture. Every time I'm in Sao Paulo, I ask him to go see his the new houses he's building and stuff.
Yeah.
He said, why don't you come work for me? And I was like, why not? Why not? I'm like, this is a time to do it. So he had an office in New York at the time. And so I started helping him with buying furniture and then putting it all in a container and shipping it to Sao Paulo, which then, funny enough, helped me with my project I did later on my own in Paris, because I kind of knew about the shipping containers and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and it's so much easier now because of First Dibs, and like those paths were created, and we all realized like, oh, that's pretty easy. But back when you're talking about, like, it was not that easy.
No,
it was gold to get a container.
Yeah. And then during
do you speak French?
Sorry?
Do you speak French?
I can't speak French very well, but it's kind of like riding a bicycle. If I go to Paris and I'm there for 4 or 5 days,
yeah,
I can pick it up and there we go.
A bottle of wine.
And a bottle of wine. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Then suddenly it comes out.
Yeah. And with that, I can speak Portuguese and I can speak any language. Yes, after a while. So Hugo was instrumental in that. And then at the time, I was also taking night classes at Parsons at the New York School of Interior Design to kind of, because I thought, I really need some of the technical things.
Yeah.
I know my art. I know my furniture.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to draw in CAD.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I need to learn some sketching skills. And so I took these classes there. And then Hugo basically started, as he got older, he wanted to focus more on Brazil, not so much in New York.
Sure.
So I thought, this is the time to do it. So I started interviewing with other designers.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work out for whatever reason. And so I thought, it's now or never. Richard, it's now or never. So, I hung up my shield. I started talking to my clients from Christie's, to colleagues, and just starting, the networking the contacts you already have. And so I've been very, very lucky.
This is a really interesting point because obviously everybody knows you have to network, but many of us, might not know what that looks like. So when you're doing it, you're just calling up the people and saying like, "Hey, I'm doing this now on my own." And if you know people, are you saying to them, if you know people, send them my way? What's the conversation? Because I know it can be embarrassing for people.
Well, the thing is that I read once that networking is not necessarily to go out and like shake hands and, kind of like an old car salesman
Yeah,
saying, "Oh, I can."
hope not.
It petrifies me, and it actually petrifies me. You think that after all this of working at the banks and Christie's, that no, I'm very comfortable with the people that surround me.
Mm-hmm.
But to do a cold call, forget it. It petrifies me, and I can't do that. And so I remember reading that networking is not necessarily doing that, although it could be,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just having conversations with the people that you know about what you're doing, and
And
and,
being out there.
and then just keeping tabs on that. So for the first 5 years, I was having lunches like every day.
So that's also discipline. That's so interesting.
So that's how I've networked, and then I'm to the point now where I know I still network, but it's a lot of word of mouth. So that's
Yeah,
that's a
but
good thing.
it is definitely I yeah. I'm a very social person in that I like people and stuff, obviously, and I obviously talk, and I don't have a problem with doing like a cold call for product, but networking to get clients, I don't know what that is. And I know it exists, but yeah, that's a very intimidating. Because then you wonder if people are questioning your motives. Like it's funny that we who depend so much on people finding us can recoil from going out there and doing that. But I love that advice. Like, just go and be part of the conversation. Keep people, you know, um, keep connected.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that's been a blessing for me in a way in terms of clients is that I've had these different careers, and every career has a great pipeline.
Yeah.
So like in banking, I mean, my art clients from Christie's and Sotheby's, Sotheby's has been extremely supportive, and they were my competition,
Sure.
but they've been really supported. And so I'm I don't want to say the word milk, but those are the clients that I pay attention to because it's easy for me to be part of that conversation.
Right. Right. And those are also the people that you can presumably help as well. It's
Yeah,
not a one-sided transaction. You are giving them a forum in which they can be showing you the artwork that they're selling, and it's a big community thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when you first started with well, first of all, what art were you focusing on?
So at Christie's, I was focusing on all master paintings.
Mm-hmm.
In all master paintings, and I was senior vice president. I was in charge of the sales
Wow.
for all master paintings, to a year, and in London and Paris, and so it was quite exciting, and I love that art.
And
But
what year was this?
this was 99 to 2009, more or less.
Okay, so I I can imagine a lot of people as the aesthetics were changing right then. I imagine that amazing old master things were in the marketplace.
Yes, and also, one of the interesting things is, because I get this question a lot from people, is like people want to buy what everybody else is buying,
Mhm.
even though they may not necessarily like it too much. And I said to them, no, if you're going to be spending more than six figures on art, you really have to like it. Not if your friend likes it, not if your mother likes it, not
Well,
you need to like it. Because what happens is that as tastes change, the value of that art is also going to change. So, for example,
right. It's musical chairs.
true. And when I was towards the end of my time at Christie's, I had a client who had a huge Fragonard.
Hmm.
Fragonard is very pastel-y colors and very
Actually,
whimsical. And
I don't love Fragonard. It's too
I
pretty for me. It's too like
to
cute girl.
chocolate candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's not my thing at all. 18th century French thing is
Yeah.
not for me. But there's people that like it, but they had bought it 10 years prior, and they had paid, something like, I can't remember exactly, but let's say around $800,000 because it's a serious painting.
Sure.
Almost 10 years later, we said, well, we can take it, but it'll be like at 200 to 300,000.
Yeah. The
So
market.
in 10 years, for a painting of a real artist, I mean, like
Yeah.
Fragonard, he's in
Right.
the,
And the
in
print.
the art history books,
Yeah.
went from 800,000 to 200,000. So it's not a great investment unless you're investing in yourself and you're loving what you see on a daily basis. And so that's what art should be.
And we're also talking about a moment in time where our collection was less the financial calculus that it is now. Like the whole art investment boom. I mean, sure, there were Van Goghs selling for 400 million then, but now it's commonplace for these, for, I guess, hedge funds or whatever to be investing huge, these,
Yeah,
they're
it's
parking money in these huge sales.
yeah. But the thing is that it's a gamble. Buying serious art is like going to Las Vegas. You have no idea if you're going to make money off of it or you're going to lose money
Right.
on
So
it.
that's why I like your direction.
Yeah,
Like
you have
for a civilian, you better like it.
yeah, you better like it, and you better like it very much because uh, you just have to like it if you spend that sort of money on it.
Yeah. What's it worth to you?
Yes.
I was talking to somebody yesterday about, how occasionally you'll find a piece of art that you might love and you will frame it at great cost. And maybe the artwork was less expensive. And
Yeah.
sometimes, everybody wants to find things that they can afford. But occasionally that will happen and the frame price will come in. Why would I pay so much for a frame for a piece that I got less? And it's like, well, I mean, something was a good deal. Like, why be unhappy with anything being a good deal? Sometimes both are a good deal and sometimes one is a good deal.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
you don't want is both of them to be a bad deal. Like, be happy with one thing being a deal.
Yeah. What's very funny with frames is that while the art may change in value and go up and down, frames themselves go from what you pay. Is like buying a car. The minute the minute it's framed, it's worth nothing. So if you want to change the frame and you want to sell the frame for whatever reason because it cost me $10,000, you ain't gonna get squat for the frame unless it's like, it was owned by Louis the 14th and it
Right.
hung at
Right.
Versailles and
Pedigree.
That's the only. Yeah.
Wow. And I love frames. I love a good
Oh,
frame.
I love frames too, but they're expensive, and you're right. A lot of times, the frame is more expensive than the little piece of art.
And
But
that's if you're lucky.
that's yeah,
That's
exactly.
a good thing. So you went from old masters to then working for the Brazilian architect. And what milieu were you working in? Was it more modern? What was the aesthetic there?
So the old masters is something that I've always loved and have a passion for, but
Who are your
I'm
favorites?
also sorry.
Who are your favorites? I can't remember from the questionnaire.
The favorites are basically artists of the 17th century, like Caravaggio,
Mhm.
um, or the Spanish old masters from the age of
Murillo
gold,
and Goya.
Ribera
Yeah.
and Goya, and yeah, I mean those to me are my favorite. But I'm also the type, I'm living in this day and age.
Velasquez over Goya for me.
Velasquez to me is my
The
favorite. After
ultimate.
Caravaggio, it's Velasquez. Yeah,
Yeah. I am Velasquez before Caravaggio. Only
yeah,
because Caravaggio, it's like sometimes it's so sumptuous, it's like almost indecent.
yeah.
You,
Well,
like, you look at it and you're like, oh,
yeah, well,
Caravaggio.
yeah. Well, Caravaggio is not painting to please our eyes, and he's not painting to um, um, to kiss butt on his
Yeah.
patron. He's painting like
Right.
force and colors and muscles
Yeah.
and very um, dramatic pieces.
Yeah.
You know, but as I was saying, I'm still a person, a man of the 21st century, and I like modernism.
Yeah.
So
And I love your work, and I think of it as having dynamic modern, if not art, then direction as
yeah,
well.
I think of it that way. I don't know if sometimes it translates into that, but
There's no
yeah.
time for humility on 52 weeks. um, I, for anybody watching this, it is worth looking at that staircase you did at Kips Bay in whatever year that was. I don't even know what month we're in now, but it was, it's kind of like how you just described Caravaggio. You weren't trying to please anybody. You were swinging for the fences. You were having so much fun. It was tenebrism and force and art and color. And it really, the Kips Bay, which is obviously dear to my heart, full stop. And I am with Jamie Drake, the co-chair of the New York Show House. Watching what people do like you did when you just go for it, and to get to see it as a person in your field and to be so inspired by it is really something. And that staircase was that was so fun.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. With Kips Bay, or I guess any show house, there's a there's a there's a question that when you're selected or you want to do one, there's a question of, should I go crazy or
Mm-hmm.
should I go like my aesthetic?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think at the end of the story, you want to try to get clients out of it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because it's not a cheap endeavor by any means. Oh my good God, no.
It's stressful, and it's in no time whatsoever.
Yeah. So, I applaud the designers who do really wonderful kind of livable spaces,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a market for that. In this particular showcase, there was a couple things that influenced me. Number one is I did not want someone to walk through the house, as I have in other show houses, and walk right by the entrance
Right.
and not even see it. Oh, that petrified me to no end.
No, it's
Yeah,
such great. I mean, you had your brief.
yeah,
Stop them in their tracks right here before they even get started.
yeah, yeah. So that was an important thing to consider. Um, and then the other thing is that while it may not have been something that you have in your own particular house in terms of the shadows and the lighting, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted also to show people that you can do couture work,
Totally.
and that doesn't mean that that's what you get. So, if you do couture in Paris and they do, I don't know, dress with a black bra and pointy nails on it or something, well, you may not buy that, but you may see the couturier and say,
Or
oh, well,
you're seduced by something.
yeah, yeah, he sees something, or he has talent, or I may not want to wear that, but I want to wear his clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what I was, some of the things that came into thinking about Kips Bay.
Was that your first Kips Bay?
Yeah.
So I have a pet theory about, what you were saying before about, do you do it in your sensibility, or do you do like a spectacle? And I do think the older you are, the more comfortable you become in the spectacle. And at first it can be very, um, you just want to show yourself as a viable entity. But yeah, as you get confident, you realize what you were saying about couture, the value of showing the most emphatic statement from your point of view. Was the installation, was that glass? I can't recall. Was it glass? Was it metal?
No, what it was is that I cooperated with this outfit in California, MJ Atelier, and so it was actually it was, I don't want to call it wallpaper, because wallpaper has this connotation that it comes in rolls. And,
Yes. This was an art installation for sure.
this was a complete, yeah. So every surface had like one piece of canvas. So it was one piece of canvas from edge to edge, no seams or no nothing. I mean, the thing cost me a fortune, and it had to be transported in a flatbed from Los Angeles to New York.
Where is it now?
Oh, sadly, it's in the dumpster.
What?
Yeah, because the people who bought the house didn't want it.
But why wouldn't you save it somewhere to take a piece of?
Oh, well, I took a piece. No, I took a piece. I took a piece because it not only as a reminder of how attention grabbing it was, but also of it had like 24 karat white and yellow gold on the ceiling, so that with a light it would glitter. I mean, so there was a lot of thinking, that maybe too much thinking that went into this.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience, and I would do it again given different circumstances, for sure.
Well, there are different circumstances. So that's good to know. So back to the development of your aesthetic, having this background in the old masters, and then but being a creature of your present,
Mm-hmm.
and diving into modernism. Was there a point at which you think people connected you? Because I do very much in my head you having a modernist edge, and that being part of your DNA.
Yeah.
Did that happen subtly over time, or?
No, because in particular, I didn't want to put together like classic spaces
Mm-hmm.
with a modern twist. Well, no, I mean, that was just me. I know people do it really nicely, and you do a very fantastic job in doing that. I mean, that Kips Bay that you did of a bedroom, like in an Ottoman or Orientalist sort of way.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you back then, and I fell in love with that space. I mean, it was just the colorings and everything were amazing, but that's not really my interest.
Sure. And as you've already said, your interest is moving and changing and developing.
Yeah. So I'm more of a, within the classic lines of architecture, I'm more of a modernist, and I like then including some antiques, but a handful of them, just to kind of bring some gravitas to the space.
Texture.
Exactly. I mean, 18th century George III rosewood table, which is like, who wouldn't want a table like that?
Who wouldn't?
You put it into a modern space, and it can look really, really fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I am now, and it's evolving. So
with somebody who is so conversant with sales, art sales auctions, do you find that your opinion, or not your opinion, but are you very cued into those sales? Does that drive a lot of what you do? Because I know that you help your clients collect major pieces. So what's available at any given moment must put you in a place.
Yeah. So normally what I do with clients is that I have two budgets. I have the budget to do the house and the restoration and, just the whole thing. And then a complete separate budget for art. Because, you can sell one piece of art and you can make more in that than in the whole 3 years of renovations and, buying furniture and stuff. Because it's just because
Right.
of the prices, the crazy prices for them.
Um, yeah, yeah.
So with clients, with clients, the clients who are interested, then I work on, we work on retainers so that I can, I have the ability to show them pieces that are not at auction, because that's the other
right.
good things that I have is that I know where collectors live,
Yeah, that
and
is
I work where buyers live. Yeah.
that is very specific to your toolbox, and that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I can marry them without them even going into the market or the auction or anything like that. So
Do most people who hire you have some art already, and they're like, okay, this is where I'm at? Because I can't imagine people just wake up one morning and say like, oh, I'm going to decorate my house and I'm going to get incredibly important art.
no, it's I would say that 90% of my clients either already have art or are in the market for art, or just kind of have that that idea that that's what they should be doing.
Yeah, I mean that is the trickiest part, I think, of any job. But obviously, books and artwork make the space.
Yeah.
I know Dimmers is always a happy, what could you not live without answer on the questionnaire. But art and books, art and books, art and books. And you can make the most beautiful house for anybody. And if they put art up, and a completely subjective term, and I am being subjective, but as the decorator, designer, when that if that art goes up and you don't like it, it's such a, it's an opportunity missed.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now I'm working with a young guy, and it's funny, because this guy is normally I work with people that are more or less my age or older, but this guy is in his 20s, can afford more. I mean, he can afford stuff. But he's interested in not only the place that we're doing, but he is interested in the art also. So we're going to finish the space. It's still going to be empty, bare walls.
Yeah.
But little by little, we're going to fill them. And I just say, it's about patience, because if you want the walls to be filled immediately, then we have to approach this completely differently.
And it's less soulful if you just, add a drop of water and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier, frankly, for us, as you know, to be able to go and buy, a nice print or something, or to commission something for that space. It's a lot easier in a way. But as you said, if people don't really like it, then what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. What is the point? Then it's performance. Then it's their house is not performing for them, it's performing for others.
Yeah.
And your house should be working for you.
Absolutely.
In service to you.
Yeah.
What are some of the favorite projects that you've had? I mean, obviously you've worked in Brazil, Mexico, America, France.
Yeah. So one, I mean, it wasn't a very big project, but it was a big enough project. I did the apartment for the director of the Morgan Library, and all his art is like, I mean, it's museum quality, all of it. It's all mostly drawings.
Yeah.
So kind of very erudite. I mean, he's just very scholarly and stuff. And so that was a very fun project. One of the projects that I'm working on now is, like I said, with the young guy, and it's very, it, it's a great learning experience because I've never worked with someone who
Or
is,
you both.
I'm sure for us both, absolutely, yeah. But rarely have I had someone say, "Here's the money and do your thing." I'm like, in first instance, that's fantastic.
And he
But then,
has said that you may have that once in your life.
yeah,
And this might be it.
and,
Like,
and he has done that. But you know what? Everybody thinks it's such a great thing. But then you're like, well, this is
right,
not my house. This is for him.
right. You're
So
kind
I
of
don't want to.
up in the sea.
Exactly. So I found it to be challenging in the sense that even though he says, do it all, just go out and do it. I'm still thinking, well, I need to show you these rugs because I really dig all three of them, but I need
Yeah.
for you to say whether you like, the red one or
Yeah,
the,
like a litmus test.
yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is actually, there's a show house component of that as well, because you do have to kind of create in your mind's eye who you're working for. I have a beloved client I'm working for out west, and we're still trying to figure out, like, who are we? Who are
Yeah.
we now?
Do you find that in your, when you're doing these projects, I know a lot of people say, oh, you should have it like a story, or a story that talks about how the room will be. Do you kind of do that, or?
I think I think story is essential, but not necessarily articulated story. It might be something amorphous in the air that I do think it's really helpful if you can verbalize to yourself, even if you never verbalize it to your client, what you think you're doing, because it forces you to clarify your imperative, your direction. But I I don't mean it. It sounds like what you're asking me if I believe in is imposing kind of a false, like a fairy tale,
Yeah.
untruth. It's still there. Obviously, there has to be authenticity, and but if you can hang your hat on a story, it can help you focus and make it richer. But it has to be there has to be truth to it.
Yeah.
It's also funny listening to you say usually you work for people your age or older, which I totally get, and this is your first, like, obviously we're all going to get to that point where everybody's younger and our careers are going to change completely. Like, I'm really kind of on that. I'm teetering right now. I have a lot of people my age that I'm working for, and it's starting to get younger. And this is it's an exciting development for a person in a creative field, because that dynamic is so different.
Well, the thing that I find is, I mean, kind of thinking of this kind of more philosophically, is that I think that as humans or as professionals, there's only a certain amount of time where we're actually relevant. I know. It's horrible to say it, and so part of being relevant is being connected with that group of people that is really relevant at that moment in time. So we may.
It's a remarkable thing to hear from the man who said, I don't care what people think of me for posterity.
No.
Relevance to whom exactly?
No. So I said that because it's not that I don't. No, it's not that I don't care, but I don't think of it because I'm like, there's.
You're too busy.
It's like people don't even. I can't even control the narrative when I'm alive. Imagine when you're dead. There's like no way.
Sure.
Number one, and number two, it's kind of like, in life there's a pecking order. Whether we like it or not, it exists. So, people may remember Mark Hampton, and they may remember Peter Marino. Yeah. Kind of these iconic designers
Yeah.
that lived during a time also when there wasn't so much competition. Let's face it.
Absolutely, that they were pioneering the
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
But I think our call to arms is really relevance for the people for whom we are working.
Yes.
There's a difference between public relevance, which, as you said, is posterity when you're dead. But the only we have to be relevant to, besides maybe our loved ones,
Yeah.
is the person for whom we are delivering the
The faith.
account of their lives.
Yeah.
I think
So
we get bogged down with if we think we're relevant in a larger way. There's always going to be somebody more something,
always.
fill in the blank. And that therein lies madness. Like don't follow that path.
Yeah. And that's why I said that I don't think of that, because
Yeah.
I think about I think about being relevant to my clients now in this day and age, now. But to think about what legacy I'm going to leave, and like we're all like little pieces of sand in a huge beach. No one cares.
Yeah. It's vain, but it's fun.
Yeah. Well, true.
Like, what do you think of me? Yeah.
You're crazy.
No, it's silly. Yeah. Okay. What's the next decade for Mr. Rabel going to be?
What's the next decade? I'm very happy.
Your hopes for yourself.
I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. And I just hope that, that the clients that I do work for are happy. And I mean, I don't know how it is for you. I mean, for me, this really, there's a financial component to the business that to me is very important, because that it's not that I need the money to eat or put a house over myself or go on trips or anything like that. But the financial component for me is that people value you.
Mm-hmm.
And if people don't want to pay you, which they did at the very beginning of my career, they didn't want to pay what I said I was worth,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm not interested in working for them.
This is a great thing for anybody who watches these, who's in design or decorating or wants to be in design decorating. It is a great thing. It's people shy away from it, saying it, but it's a completely important component. And for what you said, for the reason you said, it's about self-respect and self-value, and it's not just filthy lucre. It's a reflection of how you feel about your commitment to your chosen field. Yeah.
So for me, for the next 10 years, if I can be doing and working with the type of clients that I'm doing right now, that to me, I don't aspire to be, uh, in the list of, the 5 best interior designers in the galaxy. I don't care. But to be doing the work that I'm doing with clients and having them smile when they walk into their space for the first time, that to me is like priceless. You can't even pay me enough for that,
Yeah.
Um,
and how lucky when you have this is how you spend your day from morning to night. And if you can't have these wonderful relationships and know that you're doing good work for them and making them happy, that's major.
Yeah. And as we all know, it's not about eating bonbons and watching Oprah, all day.
I don't know if you know this, but Oprah is no longer on the air.
Okay, maybe
She's not watching TV the way
maybe I'm dating myself a little
yes.
bit. Okay, I don't know who's on daytime television.
Yeah.
But there's a big huge schlep component to what we do. I mean,
there's virtue and hard work. As you it's funny. It's like comes back to what your father said, and it comes back to your Venn diagram. The accountant is still there.
Oh, it's still there,
because
totally.
You're saying that is an important part, and you're still not a salon owner, but the accountant and the designer, and then your father saying, go out there, work hard, and take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So good lessons.
Yeah. No, I know. And listen, I think that what you're doing with these videos is fantastic. And I thank you for the
That's
invitation.
the man who is speaking on one now.
No, no, I know. I know. No, thank you for the invitation.
No, oh gosh, it's so nice for me to speak to my friends, my peeps, and it is so interesting to hear how we all do it differently, and also just to feed off of like things that you say that I'm like, oh, that's so good. I got to remember
It's
that,
so
or
deep, right? It's so deep.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is so deep. You know, we're Scott Francis, who's a great photographer and is hilarious. He calls decorators, when he's being silly, swatch jockeys, which is I love as a term. But you know, we're not just swatches.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're there's lots to it.
We're real people with,
Yeah, and I love your mix of that, of the academia and the knowing the pedigrees and the loving the art and working that into the interiors. Obviously, that's huge. So, thank you
yeah.
so much for doing this with me today. I guess
It was fun.
we have to go back and schlep now.
We do. We have to go back to Schlub. Absolutely. Good, good job for doing this, Alex.
Love you, kisses, and speak to you soon, I hope.
Bye. Bye-bye.